Hi, and welcome to today's episode of Shift Happens. Today we're talking to Katie, who is a pain therapist and the founder of the Beat Pain approach. So let's talk to Katie.
Thank you for having me.
Hi. Welcome. So shall we just get straight into this for a start, Katie? And I'm going to ask you the question because pain is an epidemic. You know, find somebody who's not suffered pain, but it seems to be so much more prevalent in people's lives at the moment. So let's start by, what is pain?
What is pain?
Yeah.
It's a really good question, and even the scientists struggle to answer it. But pain is a perception in the brain. When you get told that your pain's in your head, it's very, very degrading. But actually, all pain is processed in the brain. And it's a warning signal to you. And actually, without pain, we wouldn't live very long. There's a few people in the world that don't have pain, and they haven't lived more than sort of mid-20s. Because if you think you burn yourself on a hot stove, you have pain, you withdraw that hand. You sprain your ankle, you have pain to rest your ankle so it can heal. So in a way, we should be grateful for pain. As unpleasant as it is, but it has to be unpleasant so that we react to it and protect ourselves. So it's like a messenger we feel it wherever in the body, but it is processed in the brain, and we need to listen. What's this trying to tell us? Now, that's a very long-winded sort of description of what pain is, but that's my take on pain. And when you think that the scientists really struggled to describe pain, that's sort of my narrative of what I've taken from all the study and reading that I've done around pain. Yeah.
So pain, what an absolutely wonderful thing to be working with, actually. I mean, very rewarding.
Flippin' love pain.
Yeah, exactly. So what took you to pain? How
my
did
own
you
pain.
end up here? Yeah,
my own pain. I think a lot of people that come into therapy spaces through their own journey. Whilst I was in the military, I had debilitating back pain, which came on for sort of no apparent reason. I bent over to pick something up and I couldn't stand up. And I had my toddler who I needed to get to nursery so I could get to work. And my husband at the time, who was also military, was flying in Afghanistan. So I was solo parenting and I had no one else in the house. I literally couldn't lift up my toddler. So he was about 1 year old, just about walking, and he had to walk effectively to the car, get into the car seat. And I got him to nursery, got the nursery workers to come and get him. And then thankfully I was in the military, so I took myself off to the med centre and had the sort of probably standard treatment, 15 minutes in, here's some drugs, that should sort out your pain. If it carries on, we'll look into doing MRI scans and all of that. I realised that by taking the drugs that was prescribed to me, which was naproxen, that did bugger all, and diazepam, which knocked me out for 6. Mm-hmm. And then I would only save my diazepam tablets for when I really needed it. And then there was a night where my pain was long-term. By this time, I'd had another baby and a toddler. And I slept sort of all night, like a conked-out sleep. Woke up, I don't know what time in the morning, and both children were howling like they'd been howling for hours. I was like, oh my God, I can't do that as a solo parent at home on my own. I just can't. I've got kids to mind. I can't go down that drugs route. So I was having hands-on therapy, osteopathy, craniosacral therapy, massage. And it was an osteopath that told me about Lorimer Moseley, who's a pain scientist in Australia. And he says, go and watch his TED Talk. And his TED Talk effectively told me that despite my intensity of pain, that did not correlate to my the tissue damage. We often think more pain, more tissue damage. But he made me realise that I might not even have any tissue damage, but I've got excruciating pain. And that was my turning point.
Wow.
I missed a bit.
Yeah.
The MRI, which I ended up having, told me I had degenerative disc disease. So at age, I was only just about 30, I think, told degenerative disc disease. And I said, what does this mean? And they were like, well, your spine's very fragile. You're not going to be able to do assault courses. You're not going to be able to do hikes and circuits or carry loads. And being in the military as a physical education officer, I was like, that's like a life sentence. That's what I do. My identity was a fit young woman.
Yeah.
And you're taking that from me because my spine is weak at age 30. So I just went down this deep, dark spiral of despair. And Lorimer's words were like, and I did some reading about MRIs on something like 100 people of all ages with no pain. 50% of 30-year-olds had some kind of degeneration in their spine or bulging discs or spondylolisthesis, all of these kind of findings, but they had no pain. So it's basically grey hairs of the spine, wrinkles of the spine. You're never going to see really a perfect spine beyond the age of a baby.
Yeah.
We all have degeneration. And for me to realise that actually degenerative disc disease is not a disease. It's like saying you've got wrinkle disease or grey hair disease. It's like, it's the language that's used is really damaging. So that was my shift in my recovery, was realising that my spine isn't damaged and I can get my life back, bit by bit.
Yeah. So what were the next steps? How did you go about that, getting your life back?
So I was still going down like the physio road, and massages would help, but it was never long term. It was like 3 or 4 days, you feel a bit of relief, and then it starts to come back again. And I said to one, at this point, we'd actually moved to Saudi Arabia, which came with its whole load of stresses, which made my pain worse. And I was starting actually to correlate stress with pain. Mm-hmm. And a physio said to me, look, if running's really important, just go for a run. I said, but I can't, my back. She goes, just do like 15 minutes, So I ran around the compound and I felt better. I thought, okay. And she goes, that's evidence to the brain. It's okay. So I was like, I can get my fitness back. I can do this. But there was still movements that would trigger pain again. And as I say, the stress, I had 2 years of toddler and baby. So my husband left the military at this point, took this job in Saudi. And I was solo parenting for 2 years waiting for a visa. And that was really stressful. Like no sleep in the day, no sleep at night. And my pain was just through the roof. I wasn't myself. I was just miserable. And then we got to Saudi and he was in Jeddah. I was in Riyadh. So I was like, I'm in this strange place completely on my own with 2 kids. I can't drive. I know no one. And he kept saying, we'll be back. We'll be there in a month. And it was 4 months. And I was like losing the plot. And then, I could just feel my back and I was just miserable.
Yeah.
Motion, I now know as well, motion's a link so much with pain.
Yes. Yeah.
And I can see it all now. My neck would go rigid and I said, I need an MRI for my neck because I can't move my neck. And they said, oh, it's just muscle tightness. And I was convincing, again, myself that I've done some serious damage because the pain was so much, even though I knew these little bits of Lorimer Moseley's stuff, but I didn't know it all. And you still then, when you're feeling that pain, you're still convincing yourself that you've got some real damage going on.
Yeah.
So it's been a 12-year journey of learning. And I was doing sports massage when I left the military, and doing that, I start to learn more. Then I did the cranial sacral therapy, and I'm learning more about the nervous system and calming down the nervous system, the vagus nerve, and all of this. It's all relevant. And then now I've found the work of SERPA, which is the mind-body John Sarno stuff. And I'm just like blown away by that kind of work now. I'm working towards my level 3 and having emotional releases. And it was, I think a couple of years ago, I had this emotional release where my whole body was just shaking uncontrollably, like I was really cold. And I was lying on the couch going, I feel cold. It's all right. You've got a blanket on. And what came out of that was actually I was really angry and resentful towards my husband, putting me in a position of solo parenting where I was finding it really hard. And this anger and resentment was being shut down because I'm a military woman. I'm strong. I'm not allowed to be angry that my husband's serving the country abroad. I'm not allowed to feel like that. I should be proud of him. But I was so pissed off that I was wiping nappies when I'm in the military and he's getting a medal.
Yeah.
You know, it was just felt so unfair. And you can't vocalise that really with society or whatever. So I shut it all down. Literally 10 years later, it all came out. And I'm like, that's why I had back pain.
Yeah, exactly. They say, don't they, that lower back pain is very much about your roots and how safe you feel in the environment that you're in, security. Home. Yeah. I'm really interested in that, in the correlation between emotional distress, stress, anxiety, depression, and disease. Disease and pain. What have you learned and what have you seen to back up that correlation, really?
So I'm very sciencey.
Yeah.
Got a science degree, sports science and physiology. So the science has to make sense to me. And somebody was recommending a book recently. I need to get it, called The Science of Woo Woo. I so need to buy it.
Yeah, we've heard about that.
Somebody
else brought that
up.
Yeah.
So when you experience an injury, so what we call acute injury or nociceptive pain, so your receptors in your periphery are picking up some kind of tissue damage, whether it's chemical change, mechanical change, or a temperature change. That's what the nerves are picking up, and it sends it to the brain. It lights up areas of the brain that then cause you to make a reaction, like resting that body part or whatever. That is nociceptive pain. Now, after about 3 months, if you've still got pain, that's called chronic persistent pain. And that is now, we're talking well-trodden neural pathway. It's now, we're going to call it neuroplastic pain. So neuro means nerve pathway.
Yeah.
Plastic means we can change it. We can make new nerve pathways. But it also lights up a completely different area of the brain. It lights up our emotional centers. So with doing fMRIs where we can see the brain and different areas lighting up, nociceptive pain and neuroplastic pain light up different areas. So it's a completely different type of pain.
Yes, so do I.
So this is why drugs don't work.
Yeah.
You can get addicted to all these opioid drugs and the placebo effect might give you a little bit of help. But actually a lot of it, they're not that effective. Whereas nociceptive pain, you can have various medical interventions to intercept that pathway from the nerve that's picking up the signal, and therefore it does work. Yeah. When you go for an epidural or something to have an operation, it absolutely works, doesn't it? We don't get pain. But when we've got this well-trodden neural pathway firing up emotional centers of the brain, we've kind of got to look at things that aren't drugs related or medicine, and we've got to look at the whole body.
Yeah.
The biopsychosocial model. Have you heard of that?
No, so please explain that.
So doctors and physios, and they will look at the biological, kind of biomechanical reasons for your pain. That's why they do the MRIs. That's why they try and pin your pain onto any abnormalities. It's why they do the blood tests. But when you've got someone with persistent symptoms of any kind and they're not getting the answers from the doctors or the medicine, it's often because we've got other aspects contributing, such as the psychological aspects and the sociological aspects. So the psychological aspects can be things like stress, emotions, depression, anxiety, even hormones, obviously, because they change the way we feel, past experiences, trauma. All of that psychology side of things contributes to our amplification of pain. And the society stuff is, are we hanging out with groups of people and we're drinking all the time and therefore that's inflaming us? Do we have a warm, nurturing environment around us? Do we have a safe home? Do we have safe friends? Do we have, good diet, nutrition? Are we exercising? That's all like the sociology side of things. So that all contributes to this biopsychosocial model. All of that contributes to how we experience pain. But doctors, physios really are only trained to look at the biomechanical reasons, which is why so many people, I think, just get so frustrated when they're not getting the answers.
Yeah. And also, I think with, the medical profession, a tablet to get rid of the pain doesn't look at why you're getting the pain, does it? Unless it's so bad and you're consistently knocking on the door saying this isn't going, that we'll even look at,
Drives me
investigate
crazy.
it even more.
I heard recently, I think it was on the TV or an announcement that, I don't know what the name of the board is, but now they're insisting that all doctors, when they go through their training, they have to learn nutrition. And I was like, what?
Amazing.
I know, I couldn't believe it. I was like,
Do you know how much hours of training doctors in the UK have on pain?
I imagine it's ridiculously low. It's nothing, hardly.
I might get this slightly wrong because it's different in different countries, etc., but it's around about 18 hours in 5 years of training. And that training on pain is mainly on what drugs to prescribe or what interventions, what injections to give. There is, somebody said to me, I did a talk at our local doctor's surgery. She's an artist. And I said, can you get a foot in the door for me? I'd love to do a talk at the doctor's surgery about pain. And she went, I think you'll find they'll know about it. And I went, I think you'll find they might not.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Isn't it funny that, like, yourself and all these different therapists with the modalities, we actually have more information and knowledge than the doctors to a certain degree and it's really frazzles my brain.
Yeah. So when you're treating people now who come to you with pain, and I imagine it's all sorts of pains, do you look at all of those aspects?
I do. I've got to meet people where they're at.
Yeah.
So some people will come to me, they just want a sports massage. So I'll deliver a sports massage. And if they're very much in that physical space, that their pain is caused by a physical problem, which is their tight muscles or knots or whatever, then I will treat those tight muscles. But I've got the luxury of an hour with them, whereas doctors have, 10, 15 minutes. And they can't, to be fair, they can't do much more than prescribe medication in that time. They don't have time to understand the root causes. So with a patient on my couch, I'm sort of drip feeding bits of information, bits of education. But a pain journey is, you've got to rule out those things with the medics. You've got to go and have your MRIs and your blood tests and all that and rule it out. And then once you've ruled that out and you're beyond the 3 months, then start to open up your mind to other approaches. Start educating yourself on pain. And with that education, you change the belief in your brain. And once you've changed the belief in your brain filters in different information. So we're always filtering information. And we will be filtering information to support what our beliefs are. So the education changes our belief. Then we filter different bits in, and then we start to open our eyes to new approaches. So it's a really hard question. What do I do with people? I have to sort of take a kind of feeler of where is this person at and meet them where they're at. Because if somebody comes in and I can be saying to him, a man is much less likely to understand the mind-body approach and that link. And I find this especially with military men as well. They don't want to go there. No. It's like, don't you tell me this has got anything to do with my emotions.
Yes.
So there I will be like, okay, well, let's give you some exercise. Let's give you some nutrition. Let's work on that. And then allow them to kind of find their way with the sort of drip feeding of information.
Yeah. Have you had people come to you who have had pain for years and years and years with no joy, and it's affecting the whole of their life?
She didn't have it years and years and years. She had it a long time. But this particular person I've thought of with that question, she came to me in proper despair. She was crying so much, and she found my website and she's like, please help me. She'd been off work. She couldn't wear shoes. She was painful to walk. She had neuropathic pain. That's another type of pain, which is actually nerve damage, which is really scary, isn't it? Because nerves don't heal very quickly. And she had this neuropathic pain in her legs. And I was a bit like, I know I can help with neuroplastic pain, but I'm not sure about this one. And imposter syndrome was hitting me big time, but I desperately wanted to help her. And I'd literally just launched my website with the Beat Pain approach like a month ago. So she was like my first person. And I was like, okay, well, I'll give you the information of my program and, have a look at it. And she goes, I want to do it. I said, okay, well, let me send you the information. She goes, I want to do it. I said, oh, okay. Are you sure? She was like, I want to do it.
Yeah.
And she was like the best ever client. I'm determined not to overwhelm people. So I drip feed it, and we have little challenges each week to change our habits, to learn something, to look at a different YouTube, to, improve our diet and start moving more with more confidence, with less fear. And it was a 12-week program. And by the end of that 12 weeks, she was wearing shoes. She was back at work.
Oh.
She was driving.
Wow.
She had her life back. And actually, she was moving house into a house with her new boyfriend. And then this was about May time. And November, she sent me a message saying, I've just been to the hospital. And I'm like, oh no. She's like, I've just had a checkup. I no longer have neuropathic pain and I'm off all my meds. I was like, oh,
That's amazing.
amazing.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
That's amazing. How did you do that?
Actually, once a week, meeting her. And I did a lot of it online. But she was local, so some of it she came, but it can be done online or not. And it was just educating, changing the belief, reassuring the brain, reducing fear, because fear and pain are like this ever-ending cycle. So you're kind of trying to chip away at that downward spiral in little chinks without it being overwhelming. So, yeah, a lot of it was a pain education. Then we go on to, right, what can we do to improve nervous system stuff? Let's calm nervous system down. Let's improve sleep. Let's improve your nutrition. And this is the beat pain approach, the BEAT. So brain energy activity therapy. So we do the brain stuff first, changing belief, nervous system and all that, rewiring that neural pathway. And then the E energy is nutrition and sleep. We improve that. And then they start to feel the difference. It's like, oh, is this actually working? So once you feel a bit better, then you've got more energy to do more and buy into it more. Then the A is activity. So I'm physical education officer in the RAF. I'm not going to make them go and do press ups and squats and burpees. We gradually get them to start moving more. And I do Pilates now. But it's also, activity is also finding those joyful activities again. Pain can close in your world so much. We want to now start opening up that world. Right, what do you enjoy? I enjoy going out with my friends, or I enjoy going to the beach or walking in nature, whatever it might be, taking up a new skill or a class. Okay, well, let's get you doing those activities. And then their world starts to open up again. And then the T bit is therapy. So that's the bit where they come for hands-on, massage, cranial, whatever it might be. But she didn't need any of the hands-on. She did it all remotely, effectively. So that's the joy of the BEA. I can do it all online and help more people, is the whole idea, is to try and help more people.
I think it's incredible what you're doing.
Thank you.
What do you think needs to change regarding people's perception of pain, or how can we educate people differently about pain? What do you think needs to change?
It needs to start from sort of the ground up. Like, I've got 2 boys and I'm always trying to sort of drip feed about pain, and my family, they're like, oh, I've got this pain. I'm like, oh. It's probably, I'm probably not the best, most sympathetic. So I'm like, oh, just deal with it. Carry on. I carry too much, but I do try and educate, if they're on the football pitch and they're losing and they sprain an ankle, it's going to hurt a lot more than when they're winning. It's having this understanding that where we're at emotionally actually can amplify or dampen down our pain. And I think my boys do start to get that. But I think if we can literally have it as the norm, we talk about it the way it is, it's not in our head, but it's our nervous system. It's how activated is our nervous system right now. Let's talk about it that way. I also think that medics need to be taught the biopsychosocial model, but it is happening. Lifestyle medicine is becoming a thing. And I've been to pain conferences in London and in Birmingham, and there's a lot of doctors and physios in those pain conferences. There's a lot of doctors that are leading the movement with pain education. I was on an online pain cafe last night. We had a doctor that was doing a talk about pain. You know, Lorimer Mosley's a physio. He's teaching about pain. The Flippin' Pain website, the podcasts that are out there, the pain reprocessing therapy podcast, hearing other people's recovery stories, understanding that this approach is not, it's not wacky. It's science. It's actually led by science. And, you know, the Dr. Howard Schubiner, Dr. John Sarno, the people in America that I very much follow their approach, they're all doctors. Dr. David Clark is a gastrointestinal doctor. He now does nothing but the mind-body approach, helping people with gut issues. Yeah. You know, it's really, really powerful, but simple.
Yeah. Which is, I think, the science that's meeting what you would call spirituality now, isn't it? It's connecting, it's realizing that we are not separate from our body, you know, that everything is all entangled and we're all, our energy, our thoughts, our mindset, our beliefs.
Yeah.
Beliefs are so powerful because the reality is we are what we believe.
We are. And language that is used in our consultations, things like it's all in your head, you're just going to have to learn to live with it, you're just going to have to manage it for life, is really damaging.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't give that person any hope. So that's one of the things I do first, is let's give you hope. There are success stories out there. We can get you out of pain. And then we start to change that belief. And I'm going back to the spirituality bit. I was brought up as a Catholic, but I'm not a very strong practicing Catholic, much to my parents' dismay. But I now link a lot of what I'm doing to spirituality in the fact that when we go to church, we're together, we sing, we pray. That's almost like doing little affirmations to ourselves, or the gratitude. And this is all stuff I do in the program. Let's daily journal. And that sense of community together, we kind of lost it with lockdown and with society, haven't we? And it's so important. So no, I wouldn't say I'm particularly sort of religious as such, but spirituality in being kind to ourselves, tuning in. If we can't love ourselves, we can't love anyone else. You know, it's all very relevant, isn't it?
It is all very relevant. And I think it is something that's starting to happen now, you know, where we're starting to believe again and to understand that we need each other. We need our communities. We need unity. We need to have our own back, but in the same token, everybody else's. And you're completely right, isn't it? It's until you can embrace yourself, how can you embrace anybody else?
Yeah.
So, have you got advice for people who are suffering with pain?
If you've had pain for longer than 3 months, it is persistent chronic pain. You can get better. The likelihood is that your tissues are not damaged. You don't need to be experiencing pain all this time, but it's a neuro pathway, and that pathway can be changed with everything that I do. It's like your nerves are taking the motorway. It's just the easy route. But if you get your machete out and we go and bundu bash, bundu's an African word because I was born and brought up in Kenya, but we bundu bash our way through the forest, we can carve out new pathways.
Yes.
And it is hard work. It does take effort and time. But the more you tread those new pathways, the more easier they become. They could become well trodden. They then become like a bridle way, and then a B road and an A road. You know, they become then the easiest route for the neurons. And then you wire yourself away from pain. And I think just fill yourself with recovery stories. There's loads on various different podcast platforms. Listen to recovery stories. That's going to give you the hope. And that's the first ingredient you need to get yourself better, is that hope, and then start changing the belief. But you have also got to want to do that hard work, because there's a lot of people, I think, that would just rather just take the pills. It's the easier option, but there's a lot of side effects associated with that can make you feel worse. So, yeah.
And they really can't they?
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Some of the tablets.
Yeah. Wow.
I was watching that Netflix documentary called Painkillers. Have you seen
I've not
it?
seen that one, no.
It's about the opioid crisis and OxyContin.
I've been told
Yes.
to watch that, but
Makes me very angry.
I haven't. Well, I had an operation many years ago and ended up addicted to codeine,
Wow.
and it was really bad.
Yeah.
Really bad. I ended up having to go to rehab to get off of
And
it.
it's your story is all too common, and it's the only winners, and these are the pharmaceuticals.
Absolutely.
And I think medicine is now, it's not healthcare, it's medicine. And we're in this trap of, we've got to take this pill for this pill for this. And it's like, let's go way back. You know, this stuff has been around for centuries.
I know.
You know, the Chinese medicine, the just lifestyle, the philosophy of looking after ourselves. Let's go back to there. Like we talked right at the start about the fact that we're in a pain epidemic, yet look at our hospitals. They're like the state of the art. We've got all this new drugs, new procedures, new operations, but we're in a pain epidemic. That doesn't correlate.
No,
Like,
it doesn't.
It just doesn't make sense. We're in a pain epidemic because we're masking it with medication. Our society fuels pain like there's no tomorrow because we're all so stressed. We've all got this perfectionism and people-pleasing personalities, which all contribute to pain, by the way. And it's just like this perfect storm for pain.
Absolutely. And then you add processed food in there, and
and we're working all hours. We're not getting our sleep. We're not prioritizing sleep. We plug in our electric car because the battery goes down, or our phones, but we're not plugging in ourselves, are we, to recharge?
Do you know, it's funny you should say that, because this is a whole nother podcast, isn't it? All on these things. But I was thinking the other day about how much we work, and actually how much time is spent for leisure, for friends, for connection. And it's not much.
No, and I think we have this mindset as well that being bored is a waste of time, but actually it's really, really valuable. I say that to my kids. When I get them off the screens, I'm bored. I'm like, good.
Yeah.
Your nervous system needs to be bored every now and then.
Isn't it interesting at Christmas time when everybody stops? That's when people get ill and all their emotions come up and everything, because everyone has to stop at Christmas time, don't they? So it's quite interesting.
And they blame it on the bugs because we're all indoors. But actually it's the state of our immune system, which is nutrition in the gut, and B, the state of our nervous system. Those two combined can either ramp up inflammation, which causes pain, or dampen down inflammation, which reduces pain. It's funny you mention Christmas, because last Christmas, 2 or 3 of my family members, extended family, were saying, oh, my back really hurts. We're going for a Boxing Day walk or whatever. My back really hurts, but I haven't played my usual hockey or my usual, I'm not at work, so it can't be stress. I'm like, look how much we drank yesterday.
Yeah.
Look how much toxins we've been putting in our body. We're inflamed. That's why your back's hurting. That's why we feel tight in the joints. It's that, but it's everything I know now, I can now associate to daily life. And I'm still human. I still have pain. But recently, this month has been hugely stressful. We've had to have our roof ripped off our house because it's only 3 years old and the guys didn't do it properly. We're having to pay for it. We're probably going to be taking him to court. And what happened at the start of September? The heavens opened, didn't they? We had drought all summer. The heavens opened. We got no roof. My husband's been really stressed and actually a bit poorly. Sending my kid off to boarding school for the first time. I had everything going on. I was getting migraines. My neck was stiffening up. My back was stiffening up. Because of my knowledge, I did not fear it. I knew exactly why I was flaring up, because of everything going on. So I took a piece of my own advice. I started journaling. I was meditating. I relaxed. I tried to get out for a walk when I could, sit outside with my cup of tea in the morning to boost my circadian rhythm to sleep. I was doing all of that. And I didn't go into that monumental flare up that I possibly would have done, I think, without the knowledge. So I'm so grateful for what I know, and I just want to share it.
Yeah.
So Yeah, I mean, if people are listening and how does it work to see you? Do they have to go through a program? Do you do retreats? Like, how does it work? So I know you do like a membership that people can have each month.
Yeah, I've just started my membership. I'm like 1 month in.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so they can, I like to think I've got different tiers for different people. Like the gold standard is my 6-week program, 1-to-1, 1 session with me a week. So then my next step down is I did a group program where it's, limited number of people all going through the journey at the same time. And that's 8 weeks long. And then the membership that you get weekly Pilates live online with me. And then you get a weekly recipe, obviously anti-inflammatory recipe. And then you get fortnightly group coaching where we're talking about different pain topics. We're educating. It's a chance to connect, to share frustrations, to share wins. And like we were saying, that connection piece. And then there's the Facebook group as well for connection. And then you get the 10% off the hands-on therapy. And what I find is with the membership, because they're learning and educating and doing all these tools in their own time, they get way more out of me on the hands-on because they've already bought into a bit of my approach and the beliefs changing.
Yes.
The hands-on then becomes a lot more effective. So yeah, that's only a month old, and I would love to have more people in the membership. The more I can grow it, the more it becomes self-rewarding as well for others.
Well, there's people out there that don't know anything about this, that this probably exists. So,
yeah.
I think it's...
I think it's great, and I have a retreat space, and I'd love you to come along and do some
a retreat.
talks and retreats,
talks,
a pain. Let's talk about it, because I think
let's share the knowledge.
Yeah, and I think it's something that it's not even as if there's a specific demographic. Everybody, everyone,
yeah.
It's something that everybody would benefit from being educated.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I would love to do that.
Yeah.
I tried to set up a retreat about a year ago, but I think you need a good following, I think, to make it happen.
We've got Miss Connector here.
Yeah.
She is the connection queen,
Amazing.
and what we're doing at the moment, which is so powerful and it's so beautiful, is bringing all people together and helping each other.
Yeah.
And we're getting this huge, great big community of people that we can all tap into.
So I've launched what I've called the Health Hub Social as well, for practitioners and for people wanting to know what's available in the area that can help them, anyone interested in health and well-being. So we've had one of those, and that's free. We've got our next one coming up in October. We had about 20 people, and we're all it's just networking. It's just chatting to like-minded people.
Yeah, it is.
And it's like, oh God, I didn't even realise we had a hypnotherapist in the area or such and such in the area. So yeah, I've got that. And I would love to be able to go into corporate environments and do talks, because that's where there is a lot of pain, especially back and neck pain and headaches and all of this. And actually, I would like to think that I can reduce their sick days.
Yeah.
If we can get everybody understanding this, and if people could have that courage to say, I'm feeling quite overwhelmed right now, I need to go and just have an hour to do some exercise. The military were brilliant at that. Every Wednesday afternoon, we're all doing exercise. In the corporate world, I don't think it's quite the same.
No.
And if you get the leaders to understand this, we all need to regulate our nervous system.
Yes.
And if you regulate your nervous system, you're going to be so much more productive.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're not going to burn out. You're not going to frazzle up and go off sick with various chronic issues.
Yeah. Let's take the science out and finish with something just a little bit fun. In the spiritual world, we're just talking completely spiritual now, no science in here. You can have a pain and you can Google, so what does this pain mean, in my body? Have you come across certain areas of the body that hold that there is a correlation between, so let's say heart, this is the easy one that anyone could guess, pain in the chest, heart area, grief.
Anxiety.
Yeah. So do you find that there is correlation between how we're thinking and where the pain manifests in our body?
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's a great book that's like the weight of a brick, that's like a Bible, the metaphysical something anatomy.
Yeah.
And it's, you basically look up your symptom and it tells you all the emotions that are associated with that. It's quite eye-opening.
Yeah.
I've got one of those called The Body Speaks. It's mine. Mine's called.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sounds quite similar. And I'm sure, I won't mention names, but a client was working with me and she was doing the journaling and the affirmations and stuff. And she said, I wrote down, I am happy, and I just burst out crying. And so I looked into it a bit more. And as I did that, my hip pain, which is what she was seeing me for, just was really loud and throbbing at her and screaming at her. So when we unpicked it, we realised that I can't go into too much detail with the story, but she hadn't allowed herself to be happy because of grief of a family member, that she was still here. And she didn't want to go further forward in life because that meant further away than the family member she was missing.
Yes.
And the hip said something like fear of moving forward.
That's right, yeah.
And when I said that to her, she just broke down in tears and could see it. Yeah.
It's funny when you acknowledge, because I would use that book with clients and I would get them to look it up and I get them to read the question and answer. And when they answered it or read it out, it released, because you're talking to your body into that area. And that's what it does. Your body will, if you're not listening, it will go to the weakest part and go, hello.
Yeah.
You know,
weakest part, or even the part where it's got history.
Yes.
So it might be a past injury, or, you know, somewhere where it's got a familiar pathway, shall we say.
Yeah.
Here's something quite wacky involving the subconscious. So the brain, as we know, is taking information all the time and we're filtering it, because otherwise we'd be going crazy. Have you seen that movie Lucy?
Yeah.
You know, that's what our brains would be like if we're taking in all. So we have to filter it. But things do get stored in the subconscious, etc. And then when we get chronic pain, we've got to try and understand what these triggers are. And they might well be smells, places, anniversaries, people. It could be anything.
Yeah.
And there's a case study, not mine, but a lady who was playing netball, twisted her knee. So she had an acute injury and her knee healed. But then years down the line, she's got knee pain again, but she hasn't injured it again, but it's just making itself aware. And through doing this sort of pain work, she realised that the trigger was somebody smoking a cigar or a cigarette. And then linking that back to when that initial knee injury happened, there was somebody on the side of the netball court smoking. So her brain has taken in that information, but completely subconsciously.
Wow.
But now that's like contributing to the pain cycle. The brain's gone, hang on, last time I smelt this smell, we hurt ourselves. It must be dangerous.
No, it's incredible, isn't it?
You know?
Yeah.
Our mind. We
is.
don't realise how powerful we are.
This is where I think journaling can help. It can help tap into that subconscious. Have we got time if I share an analogy?
Yes.
Ex-military me, I love a military analogy. And I've kind of stolen this one from Monty Lynham, who wrote the book The Painful Truth, who's another doctor, scientist. The brain is like the MOD. So you've got the Ministry of Defence in London that are making all the decisions on how to protect our country, and remembering that pain is protective. So you've got intelligence officers going out to, you know, like Russia and Ukraine and all these places, gathering information. So this is like our neurons bringing information into the brain. Then you've got, you know, the vision, which is bringing information, all our senses, that's also bringing information into the brain. And then you've got the archive section, which is all the memories. So, you know, when we're sort of dealing with something, we look at history, don't we? Military history, what happened in the past? How can we learn from that? So that's the archives, and that's like our memory. And then you've got the secret bunker. That's the subconscious. and only certain people have access to the secret bunker, and you've got to have extra security clearance to get to the secret bunker, which is really, really difficult to get that security clearance to get to the secret bunker. So you get what I mean? The subconscious is really hard to access, but it still makes a big impact of the decision making of the MOD. So when the MOD determine that we've got a threat level, the little coloured signs on the front of air bases and military establishments, it's like we're at a heightened threat level or we're at a low green threat level. Everyone can, sit and chill. When we're at heightened threat level, you've got the guards at the front gate, they're fully armed, they're loaded. CCTV cameras 24/7 monitored. They're 100% checking IDs. Nothing's going to get past them. And maybe a pigeon flaps its wings and everyone goes, like this. That's where our nervous system is at when we're experiencing or perceiving danger. And when our nervous system's like that, we experience so much more pain.
Yeah.
So when MOD is telling us that we're chilled, we're relaxed, we're fine, there's no threat. The guards are there. They might not even have a weapon. They might just check every 100 car. Everything's all relaxed. And these are the two states of our nervous system. We're either in fight, flight mode or we're in rest, digest mode, which is like hammock mode. Yeah. Hammocks and meerkats. It's like, so yeah, that's, even I think if you don't know anything about the military.
It makes complete sense. It's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So pain is all about just nervous system activity.
Yes. Yeah.
Whatever you can do to calm the nervous system down, you can dial down the pain.
Yeah. And it's the same story always. Look after and regulate your nervous system. Look after yourself. Be kind to yourself.
Absolutely.
In every way possible. Move, eat well, talk to yourself. You look at the language.
Our self-chatter can be a trigger for danger.
Yeah, absolutely everything,
Yeah.
And I think society has pulled us away from ourselves. But now we are seeing a change. People are coming home.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think there's a shift happening.
Yeah,
hence the name you dropped.
Yes. Well done there.
You can come again.
So
this has been really, really fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm already, my cogs are turning with different things. Yeah.
So it was fabulous. And what about your words of wisdom? Have you got some words of wisdom to speak directly to people? I know you have already said,
quite a lot.
Be aware and
introspection, having that time to take your awareness inside and keep doing activities that bring you joy.
Yeah.
I think in my worst times, your world becomes very small.
Yeah.
And then you've got to remind yourself what brings you joy. My identity was I was a fit young woman, and thankfully I am now. I can go out and hike. I can swim. I went sea swimming yesterday with my sister. Oh, it's lovely. Little things like that.
Yeah.
You've got to do it. You've got to schedule it in, whatever. Yes. And you've got to do it daily.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a big thing.
No.
A little bit of self-care doesn't have to be going to a spa and spending a fortune. It's just, do you know what? I'm going to have a bath.
Yeah.
The other Friday, I woke up dizzy. I knew it was a mind-body thing telling me I was so stressed. I'm not ashamed to say, actually, that I spent the whole day on the sofa. I told my husband I'm taking the day off. And he went, okay. And that's it. You've got to just read your signs.
Yeah.
And be your own advocate for what you need.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me. I've loved it.
Yeah, it's been great.
Nice.
Thank you.